Hmm. Gotta see how this goes. This looks like it's gonna work. Hmm. We'll see who joins us today. Especially since this is gonna be a new way of being seen. I'm pretty certain it is anyway. Let's see what's... Yeah, that's gonna be really, really difficult. I'm just waiting to see who rocks up. This is gonna be interesting, isn't it? Ah, da 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 da. Actually, there we go. We got a vision. I got a good vision for this. I'm gonna have to go and download an image. Not gonna do that on the live stream. I will probably go to monitor 1, make it invisible. Out. Crack. Hello. Not sure who's viewing, but this is gonna be a new way of seeing videos, I think. It's a good way to test it, see what people see and what they think. I'm just working on it a little bit still. I guess I could take that picture there. I'm just working on the vision for this live stream. So I'm gonna download an image and work on this for a second. Downloads, Tata, shown folder, edit. Here we go. If only Paint had a magic tool or something that would make things just a little bit easier, but it doesn't. We do have paint.net, so I think that makes things a little bit easier if I can find it. Yep, found it. I'm hoping this turns out okay. I'm actually just gonna add another image in here because it's like a little bit bland. We don't even know what we're talking about working on. We're talking about a car, but we don't know what it is. Or some of the people are like, oh, what's this all about? I think what I need to do is I need to really make this clear on what it is we're working on. Thankfully, for me, this makes my job a little bit easier with having a pen to do some scrubbing and bumping of things. Actually, that's what I do normally. I normally get a color and then I just wipe it. Oh no. Oh no. That is not good. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm going to clean up this image just a little bit, like getting rid of things in it that I don't want in this image, and then I'm going to push it up onto the stream so it's something that people can look at with their eyes and be like, oh, that's what we're looking at. Okay, this is what stuff you were looking into and working on, because this is gonna be really, really important if we want to give this thing some more life. And especially with newer viewers, they're not gonna know what we're talking about, or potential new what do we call it? New viewers are not gonna know what it is we're looking into or researching about. So parts would look a little bit suspect. They'd like, oh, is this the part? Is that the part? They wouldn't be sure about it. So if we can make it clear on what we got to look for what vehicle, some people might have ideas and know already something, and some people might not. Okay, next is, I might actually do it that trick. That trick actually works. So we go down here. There's a whole bunch of tricks I can pull off. Oh no, that's an ugly trick. And the tolerance needs to be lowered. I know a bunch of Photoshoppy stuff, but I don't know everything. Bad video settings. Keyframe frequency is 7.9 seconds. That doesn't sound good. Is there a way I can improve it? Oh no. This isn't good. There's got to be a way I can get a better upload. DVR, that might be something that holds stuff up. Settings. I'm not even sure if it's really important. I don't know how to get around this stuff. This is gonna be bad, potentially serious viewing issues. Because we need data to be seeable, so I can't. There's like a weird confusion on how I'm gonna bump the quality just right, so it's not a problem. Oh Jesus! Oh no, not that one. I'm literally trying to get all these colors off of this vehicle and literally try to get as much information from the image as possible. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to map it out very easily and say this is all I want and destroy the rest, sort of. Oops, don't want the house. Well, I can't help but get the house, can I? I might just leave it at that. Go to the next layer. Oh no. I got a better idea. I'm not gonna scrooge around with this too much. I know that the quality settings is gonna have to take a hit for this to work. It says video bitrate. I don't know if there's any way I can drop it. Streaming is 2500. This should be able to go 1500, no problem. I don't want the fast one. I'm just gonna apply it there. Okay. I don't know if that's gonna change the health. We'll see. Your viewers are happy. Can't take on all the technical mumbo jumbo at the moment. Not when I've got this. That's right. Ooh. Almost got something I didn't want to get in this picture. I've done this a couple times before, but I've done better jobs than this. It's just I've got to rough this one out. Then everything in that area is a magic tool. Go to the picture layer. Okay. Control C. Go to another layer. Control V. Turn that off. Oh! Oh! Oh, that is a really interesting idea. That could actually work. Even though it's not exactly what I imagined, that actually looks pretty good. Even though it's, like I said, not what I imagined. Save as something. Downloads as Tata mod. I call it Tata mod on purpose. Then save as a PNG. Save. Okay, PNG saved. Let's see if we can now add. There's only one person apparently watching. Maybe it's just me that's watching. Image. It's in the downloads. Downloads, Tata mod. Okay. Oh my gosh. That image is so huge. Does it literally have to be so huge? Probably not. That looks actually pretty good, to be honest. In that picture format, it looks pretty good. At least it's kind of like a thing that says, hey, this is what the Tata is. Gives us the opportunity to have the Tata in picture format always there and say, hey, this is what we're working on. This is the thing we're mainly focusing on. So I can close that. I can then close everything I don't need open. Go to the documents and hopefully I can hit that safely. Yep. It looks alright to me. Except for the fact quality is crap. I can see it's really not that great. It's almost unreadable. That's why I think the documentation stuff being actually there and available to read means that someone could follow what I'm writing and doing at that point in time. But I reckon once it's at a fully updated state, that people will essentially have a look at this documentation and be like, this video does not line up to what this documentation looks like. This is actually terrible documentation because it's not neat, it's not consistent, it's very inconsistent because it's like one of those things we're struggling to identify. So literally, there's the comparisons up the top, then there is details right below, then there's these the build plan, which only has one line just below it for rebuild head and commit to the 100,000 kilometer service required. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's nothing that they represent other than what's below. If someone went down there, they represent things we can or can't do. Um, Then there's the parts, which is very inconsistent. It needs to be like this objectives list. The parts need to be in like a catalog or an Excel sheet or something that can easily be filtered through. Say, for example, we want to find a part. We can go to the catalog and type in use a filter to write thermostat or some short terminology, and it will find things of a similar word from filtering. Then you can basically follow it to the link where there's also that the price should be in there, and then you can basically maybe press a button to add on to the receipt. There's a lot of things you could do with this. It'd be interesting to see what we can do. Macro writing. Oh, I just stop being so tired. What would be really cool is to add in a comment section in there as well. Not just a picture of the Tata, not just a picture of me, not just a picture of that. Maybe even knocking off this 100,000 kilometer service thing and then adding a thing that's like the live comments to basically say this is what's being said at this point in time, and then it can be something that, what was the community saying? It's one of those things that no one really cares about, but it's useful to have that when people communicating, at least what's been said can be then recorded to show that they've actually helped, especially in this circumstance. It would be useful in saying someone said something and then provided they've actually said it, we can go back to verify that they actually said it. So it's sort of like evidence for the person who is a user to say that they found it and they're the ones who basically suggested it. It might be useful as a tool like that. I've literally got this on max. Is there anyone actually watching besides myself? There is 2 people watching this. There is no comments, so I'm not sure if these are new people or what, but this is what I'm working at the moment. I'm thinking about so many things, but I also really have to get to bed, so it's like one of those situations on what should I do next? Should I work on this live stream, or should I work on neatening up the documentation a bit more? It's one of those situations where it's like there's so many legs pulling you multiple ways. It's like tug of war. It's about making the decision on what you're going to do. I think right now I'm looking at the documentation right now, and I just don't really like it perfectly. This page is okay. This page can be converted into a page and be moved around, and that's okay. But that's steps that we need to take to fix it. Essentially, disassembly, research, and all that stuff. So this would be sort of a page one. Oh my god. I need to stop being tired. Where's the coffee? Actually, at this point in time, to be honest, I wish it was the weekend, because on the weekend, I have all day to do things. Not just, you know, I have tonight to do stuff, and that's it. Literally on the weekend, I can just go on the computer and just do what I need to do, like organize all this stuff. So I don't need the tablet anymore. So I'm going to move that to the side. Like, that's what I mean, I got the tablet. So those buttons, that's what it represents. How am I going to do this is a plan. Plan. What I can do is maybe even make an Excel sheet. It's all going into a project folder thing. That'll make it a little bit easier. And I'll start sort of making... Oh. Now that's why that's really... Hang on. How do I fix this? Uh, Audio. Stop audio device. Camera, mic. Push to talk, push to mute. This is really interesting. I have no idea if this is going to work. I can't believe that's actually not working. Press to mic. Enable press to mute. Yep. Let's see whether that does anything. Does it do anything? Hit apply. Hello? Oh my god. How do I get this stuff working? Camera. Boo boo. Nope. Wait, is it is there still no audio? Oh, cool, good. Because I was not sure. There's like a push to mute and a push to talk, and I was thinking, okay, if I go with the push to mute, maybe that will fix it. Or maybe setting, because I did change the setting for what audio device it said default. And I thought maybe if I force it to use this certain thing, it should work. Like, seriously, I haven't set this up. I only just set this up tonight, and on top of that, I've been trying to figure out all this other stuff. Literally, I just insulted myself before and said this is all junk and this is all only good for the end user experience, not for doing what the process is that's needed. This is all junk to me at this point in time. But this will actually come in, I think this will be very handy for whoever is going to essentially have a same or a similar situation to me where you buy a car and you can't get parts. You can then find a resolution by following like someone else's steps. So if I can lay the pavers, then someone else can walk on them essentially. So if I lay the pavement, then someone else is going to be able to walk and follow the footsteps I laid for them. So I walk that pavement before they do, and they can follow, and it makes it easier for them. Something like that. So what do we need when we do the major engine rebuild? What are the components at the bottom end? You need the timing, you need the water pump. There is gaskets, but I'll wait for that because you need the parts first. You need the gaskets. Actually, I just lied to myself. You need the seals, because if we're doing the front side of the engine, we might as well replace the seals. They generally leak at the 100,000 kilometer part of their life anyway, so might as well say seals. Um, I'm just trying to figure out, is there anything else? Uh, Head bolts, because we're literally thinking about parts. By the way, the thing is, it literally says to me right now, the live stream is bad quality, and from my end it looks okay. The quality is down, it's not crystal clear. Um, what do you guys think? Is it bad quality from your end, what you're seeing? Is it like garbage? Is it good enough, or is it too crappy to really view based on what YouTube says? Because I don't think I can get the settings to change any more than they already are. Timing. Gaskets. Head. Manifold. Um, yeah, I could sort of tell. I don't know if I can bump up the quality. It's something I'm gonna have to look into. I think that's sort of critical in this kind of a video. If we're live streaming and we're doing research, we want this information to be as crystal clear as possible in order to get the most information out of it. Otherwise, if we're just looking at a screen of blurry words, that's gonna be really a pain in the butt. So if I know what it's like on your ends, if it's not good enough for you to read, then I need to find a way to improve it. Just like the fact this stream is probably terrible. I mean, it's the first time I've done this kind of stream before. Most other streams I've ever done in the past on other channels, um, they weren't really requiring anything like serious for like little details. They were just a game here or a game there sort of thing. So I had it. at 2500. I'm going to turn the bitrate up to 2000. I don't know actually how that helps. The output scaled resolution is 1280 by 720. I don't think that's a good number. I think it needs to be higher. I don't think the FPS really matters. If we drop the FPS, it's going to look probably staggered, but the good thing about dropping the frame rates per second is it should be able to take enough information to allow it to be clear. So if I wanted to do that stuff and lower any quality settings, essentially what I'm seeing on my screen is the base resolution, which is 1920 by 1080, but on your end, you're getting the output scaled resolution, which is 1280 by 720, which is low. Downscale filter is bicubic sharpened scaling 16. Yeah, okay. I get the 16 samples now. I was just trying to go back in time, a time when I used Blender and understood samples a little bit. But dropping the frames for a video like this is probably not going to hurt it much. I mean, the only thing that's going to change visually is probably me, mostly. The page-to-page sort of loading thing, it's normally a frozen screen, so frame drop wouldn't really matter unless you were more interested in looking at me dancing in my chair. I gotta have fun with that. So what I'll do, that'll probably be a good idea. Let's leave myself some notes for later, because I'm probably gonna forget whether this pen works or not. Red. It's kind of working. It looks more purple than red. So what I'll do is later I need to go to OBS settings, video, then from there we need to change the FPS. I'm not sure what will be a good speed. I'm thinking the lower we can go, the better it will be. So I was thinking 14 frames. That's probably bad. But to be honest, the reason I say 14 frames is actually because I got out of a game. It was hard to play with the 14 frames per second that I had, but that was with an old graphics card. Then I upgraded and I had 24. And 24 is what they use for movies, I believe. So if you go watch like any film that's made for watching, essentially. My upload speed, I know it should be something like 30 kilobits or something. Let's see, internet speed test. The megabits per second download, megabits per second upload. I just remembered one thing about this stuff. Monitor 1. Oh no. Turn that off. Just because I know it sometimes says information we probably want to keep on our end, but not distribute, from what I can recall. Like it says, for this IP address, you have this upload speed and this download speed. And it looks like it's literally taking forever. It's literally got a test again button. Connecting to server. We've got, this is download speed 4.16. Come on, that's too slow. That's not our internet. 3.94 megabits download. Testing the upload. It's at 12, 13. It almost made it to 14. It dropped back down again. 14, 13.5 megabits per second upload. 3.94 megabits per second download. To a server in Sydney, latency is 32. It didn't show any information that's really scary, so I could literally keep the screen up. So that's what the speed test results were. I literally don't see how we cannot upload a better quality video and still have bad video settings with that kind of upload speed. I don't know what restriction is in this scenario. So that's really one of those questions where I don't know how to answer it. Not this point in time anyway. Maybe in the future when I look into it, maybe. But right now I have no idea. That's right. I was reading some stuff in the settings for video, FPS. I'll say 14 because that's pretty viewable. 14, and the resolution. So if I'm going to drop the frame rates, I'm going to raise the resolution, the output. Res out is going to be, I'm just going to call it 1080 HD. That's going to make it easier. Easier for me to write. Okay, so there's that stuff. Bicubic sampling, I have no idea what that does exactly, but I know what the sampling does. It's essentially the computer CPU or graphics card renders things out in square blotches, and it's like 16 samples squared or something. So it's like 16, 16. I don't think it's actually 16 by 16. It literally divides this section evenly, or some weird thing where it can get that sampling size or something. I don't know how it exactly works. I just recall when it rendered for me, when I did it, sampling size would essentially make the area it filters smaller or larger, and in cubed areas from memory. It's so long ago since I've done that stuff that's probably not going to help. So we know we need timing, we need water pump, gasket seals, head bolts. Okay, oil filter. I think I need to have a part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on what I need to do, because I literally need to do the hard stuff first and then the easy stuff later, because it's budget wise. Budget wise, it's going to make things easier. Budget number 1, and it's going to be called easy stuff. Oh, actually, I'm going to call it hard stuff. Oops. Because this is literally going to be the hard stuff to get and deal with. Budget 2, easy stuff. So, easy stuff is stuff you can do just about any time. Head bolts, oil filter. And to make this nice and neat, because it's got to be nice and neat. This means I can easily budget for these things. I can easily go into the catalog and say these are the things I need, and find things in the catalog. I think it would come in handy for whoever else has a Tata Telcoline, same year, same scenario with parts and whatnot. If they have one in Adelaide or somewhere in Australia, they could just follow this stuff to find what they need. It makes it a little bit easier. Like, I know you can get an oil filter, that's easy enough. Okay, well, my CPU is a 3.4 gigahertz CPU from top of my memory. But I did streaming on another channel that I didn't have problems with. I literally streamed a game called Factorio a couple times on that other channel, and I didn't see any major problems with it. It didn't often say bad video settings, and it wasn't even on the NBN. So now we're on NBN using coaxial. Our internet is actually pretty slow right now. That should be way higher. It's normally about 36 megabits per second, and the fastest we should be able to get is 42, according to what their speeds are. Maybe it was 48, 42, 48, one of those numbers. I can't remember what our speeds. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be 36. The easy stuff is like your air cleaner or air filter. They're both... No, the air cleaner's for the cabin. It's called cabin filter, air filter. The air filter... The thermostat is what they recommend you replace every time you replace the water pump. So, that's all hard stuff. What else is easy? Oh yeah, brakes. Except for the fact of getting rotors, that's going to be difficult. Does Steam literally do that to me? Yep, it does. I'm thinking about anything besides the engine that's easy to do and has to be done. Ah, the tacho. Yeah, people have been complaining about the NBN since its release. They literally don't believe it's delivering what they promise. It's happened to a lot of people. People will literally get the NBN and say it's unreliable, it's not doing its job that they say it's gonna do. I think either way, we're still at an upgrade because here we have that overhead copper line for the phone, and that used to give us so many problems that it just wasn't working for us anymore. And we were literally talking about, oh, let's get a new copper line put up, and that was like, you know, 10 grand, I think, to 40 or something. It was ridiculous how much just to lay a cable, and it was like, wait another 6 months and you'll be on the NBN essentially. That's what we got told. Wait 6 more months, you'll be on the NBN. The rollout plan is not what they say it is. They lie because they say they haven't done our area yet. We've been on the NBN for a year, 2 years, something like that. The hard stuff. Because whenever you're at the bottom of the motor, this has got to be done. Timing, water pump, gaskets, seals, head bolts, thermostat, oil filter, pracoms, the pracom chambers, the valve guides, because we're doing the head, springs. We can weigh springs using, what was the method? We got the spring, we put it on a scale, and we put so much distance of so much travel on it to test how much weight it was, and we then use those numbers to help us identify what is the highest number was the lowest, and how much is it going to take to raise that lowest number to the higher number. That's what we do with the springs. What else is there? I'll just say valves for the sake of saying valves. But I found valves, they're like $12 each, I believe. I'm actually feeling so tempted right now to sort of go over this stuff that I don't like the look of and saying, I'm going to see if there's a highlight. Highlight in red, it's disgusting. And that's how you do a comment. Budget 1, the hard stuff. Budget 2, the easy stuff. So timing. Oh yeah, and then To be honest, there's only one time you really need to take one of the belts into consideration during the hard stuff, and that's when it drives the water pump. The crank drives the water pump plus the alternator. In that scenario, you really need to make sure you got the right belt on there right off the back. If you don't do that, then you literally set yourself up for failure in the sense you put all this money into something, and because you have this one bottleneck, this one weak link, the car is just gonna kill itself on it. So that's the problem. Just wondering, is there anything I'm missing? I'm literally thinking about, if I pull this apart, what is there to be right, wrong, head, rocker cover. Aha, we got easy stuff, right, so that's belts. Hoses. It does need new diesel hoses, they're cracked. Can easily get some more. Um, Radiator hoses, I would get new ones just to be certain because they're tough. Like they manufacture them that way with that wrap on them that they don't bust in India and wherever they go. That's a bit of insurance for them. But we're here, and I don't think we're going to have problems with hoses going boom on us. But what would be interesting to do is literally take on the idea of what they've done. Literally figure out how they've made the hose, and then take a hose that fits right, then wrap it and glue it together. That way we can imitate what they've already done and keep it sort of the same. That things will be strong, last, they don't have the chance of puncturing, they don't have the chance of being sucked in from the, what is it called, the water pump, because the water pump has a suction, so it will suck the hoses closed. Um, yeah, this stuff is really hard to think about. I don't think there's anything else left I could add to this list. Um, there is the exhaust olives. That's what they call them. Exhaust. They call them olives. Then there is exhaust gaskets. Oh yeah, if I could figure it out, what I'd do with the plumbing for the turbo to the intake and intercooler and all that stuff, what I would do is I'd literally go to the car, I'd take all the hoses off, and I'd put in shorter pipes and make it, nice and neat. It literally has a hose pipe that goes out like this, comes around, comes back up, goes into this thing. This one literally goes straight from here to there. It's like a really jumbled mess of how they do it. It's messy. That's all I can say. I think there's a picture somewhere of it, but it is messy, and it is what it is. Okay, so because that's all junk, we already know timing belt's like $400. We know the water pump is dollars question mark because we can't find it. We know currently we can get the gaskets, the whole bunch of whatever they are, except maybe not the rock cover gasket. That will be a custom sort of thing they'll have to look into. It could cost as much as, well, the standard prices. There's 30 for the manifold gasket, 30 plus, I'll say $60 for the head gaskets. That's $90 already for those two gaskets. Um, then there is the time, so it's $90 plus, 90 plus for gaskets. Head bolts are about 80, so I'm overestimating to make sure that you don't underdo yourself a little bit there. I'm also going to put it in bold so it's like stands out, it's easier to look at and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. I'll say $50 for the seals, safe working budget, thermostat is, like I said, dollars question mark because we don't know. We might need a new housing and house a new thermostat in a new housing because we might not be able to get a thermostat for the housing that's currently in there. But it'll be a bit of a pain in the butt as well. The oil filter is about $30. Vacuum chambers is a question mark because I don't think we can get them. The valve guides on it I read were apparently brass. Yes, it runs good. It keeps blowing head gaskets. Thank you for asking. But the problem with the MJ Triton is it does need an engine rebuild. It has a few problems that it's not going to get solved. It's literally only good for running around locally, and it has high compression in one cylinder and low compression in another, and the head's been redone, so showing that high compression one cylinder is telling me that the head's good, and that high compression down the bottom end tells me that's all good as well. But because there is a 13 point something difference between the highest and the lowest compressions of the engine, that tells me that the engine's kind of chewing itself up inside. It's like literally, think about it like this, that when they balance an engine, they have everything weighed and everything measured precisely. The pressures are within a certain tolerance of each other, which is basically less than 10%. If it's less than 10%, it's okay. Above 10 is bad. So mine is above 10. That's bad, based on the manufacturer's specifications that I managed to find, not the ones for the manufacturer because they don't show anything. Mine got up to 101 degrees driving it gently up to Mount Barker. Gently. Literally, I'm not pushing it up the hill. It literally got up to 101, but it didn't push out the water. It literally did not push out the water, and it normally would push out the water and it'd be boiling over. But I've changed the coolant out and it has anti-boil properties, so I think that helped me, but it got up to 101 the other day going up to Mount Barker. I don't know what that road was called. But when I'm going up the Southern Expressway to Lonsdale, it holds about 90 in fifth gear, and it does sort of get hot. It doesn't go up to 100. It's never gotten that hot unless I go up hills. I believe it gets up to about an 85, 90. It all depends on the day and how it wants to run. It runs nicely down hills, but up hills it likes to cook. But the reason we're going to rebuild the engine is because we don't know what damage is in the bottom end now, because it could be just chewing up bearings from the imbalance and the hammering of itself internally not running right. But also because there's damage in the cylinders that indicate that that damage has transferred onto the rings. The two middle cylinders are low on compression, the outer cylinders are high on compression. From what I have number-wise somewhere, that's in my logbook, that's not here in the house, I don't believe. I think that's in the car. But rest assured, I'm not getting rid of the Triton. It drives good. If I want to register it and keep it going, say for example I get a job and I need a car tomorrow, I will register that thing and drive it because it's reliable enough as it is. It's got some things to fix on the side of rebuilding the engine. And the Tata is just one of those things. It's like it could be a project. It could stay, it could go. But at this point in time, I think this project is worth something to not just myself in learning how to solve problems that are really hard to solve, that I have a way of finding things that others can't, but also because it's also going to help the community out when they have parts they can't find, because that's a bit of a pain in the butt when you try to find parts and you can't find them. Now the springs, depending on the scenario, I'm just going to say question mark. The valves, since they're about $12, $13 each, 12 on 40, 52, $104. That's if I needed a whole new set, which I am certainly going to say no to. I don't think I need a set of valves, but if there is a damaged valve, we need new valves, there's a number there at least to help us guide us on what we need to do to get them. 104 to 200. I'll just make sure I have a tolerance for how much things cost. Budget, too easy. So currently the budget costs, I need to know what the cost is going to be, so I'm going to be the lazy guy right now because it is late and I don't want to try and read things with my head. I'd rather just put things in the calculator, let it calculate the highest and lowest numbers. 400 plus, not question mark, 90 plus. I'll go 50 plus 80 plus 30 plus. Actually, I'll go backspace equals 560, 560, and that's base. That's off the base numbers, not off the extra numbers. So now if I go off, if I keep the base number there, I can use that to do the low numbers and the high numbers. That's exactly what I'm doing. So that base can bugger off now. 560, if we have 560 plus, I'm going to take this 90 and I'm going to change this. I don't know how much things are going to cost. Okay, I don't know if you've done a compression test on yours, but from what I heard, they're meant to be about 440 psi per pot. And I've got a calculation somewhere which is basically, it's online, it's finding the difference between no two numbers as a percentage, and it goes something like the highest number minus the lowest number equals your difference. Then you go with the highest, you take the difference from the highest number. There's some mathematical thing there to find out the percentage difference. I don't remember it. Increase versus decrease. Increase and decrease with percentages. So this is literally what I used to figure out what the difference was between my cylinders. 40, 56s, yes, they do like to cook though, for some reason. But they've also got the turbos on them. It might be a turbo thing. The first step is to take, the increase is equal to the new number minus the original, so the highest versus the lowest. So you take the lowest number from the highest number, that gives you your difference between the two, not the increase, don't worry about the increase. Gives you the difference between two, then the percentage between the two numbers is essentially, it says here, increase divided by the original number, which is your 70 divided by 520 times 100. I believe that's right. 70, I'm going to go change these numbers. 70 divided by 520 times 100 equals, so there's my percentage there, if anyone can see it. It literally says 13.46. That's not good on my engine, because my cylinders were, it was 70 between 450 and 520, so I knew the second step off by heart. But that's literally what this thing says here, the increase between the numbers. This is the number you need in order to identify is your engine within spec or out of spec. So just Uh, to make it so that it's clear what I just did, it's literally, there is no divide symbol. It's literally that's divided by 520 times 100 equals 13.46115%. Actually, I should get rid of those last two numbers. That makes it clear on what's going on with my engine. 560 plus, I'm going to do these numbers now and finish this off. Now, I said 90 was going to be to another number, so literally gasket kits cost about 200 bucks. So I'll say 200 plus, and these are known numbers as well, so plus 200 equals 960. So dollars 960, something to 960, and then we'd literally go 560 plus the lower numbers, 90 plus 104 equals, that makes it easy, $7.54. I literally can't do the whole lot, but I can't help it. I know for certain that there's a number that's going to be higher than what it actually should be. Don't like high numbers. Okay, I feel like at the moment that's all I can do for tonight. I literally have to go to bed now, guys. I will probably do more streams in the near future, obviously. I think one of those checkboxes in that little thing can be sort of checked off. I think we do have, I've created a plan for the prepare and rebuild. I think this is the steps. So I feel like what I should do for tonight, since it's all done, find out which one this is. That's the catalog one. I get to scroll down because this has now a catalog thing. There's all this stuff, and then I just hit this button, turn it down, and it gets rid of one of the steps. I was thinking of more or less doing something different to that. I feel like we've got the steps. Or, to change it a little bit more, I'll go back up to 7. I'll go in here. Come on. Is it really going to do that to me? No, it doesn't do that to me. Okay. And I'll put in an X instead. We've done that step. It's seeable. It's actually done. I think that's a way we can use this tool now. Literally just put in an X to say it's done. And we do not have a list of parts. We do not have, we have not identified purchasable parts yet. Not all of them. Isolate unidentifiable parts. We have not done that entirely yet. Find ways to repair components. Water pump, we still haven't done that yet. Find alternative components to suit. No, we have not done that yet either. Find ways to remanufacture components. And we haven't done that yet because we can't. Well, we've started, but we haven't finished it. Yeah. Okay, so in my circumstance, where my heat is coming from is essentially the high compression. I'm literally running my engine lean, or my engine's either running too rich or too lean. There's a sweet spot in which the engine should run and have no problems, as far as I'm aware. We have two diesel engines of the same 4056 build. One is currently in the process of being rebuilt. There was a really bad sideways lip at the very top of the cylinders, so you could feel it from side to side. That's essentially the engine sort of doing this with the pistons, dancing against with the rings and wearing at the sides of the cylinders unevenly. With mine literally looks like a brand new engine on the inside. There is literally none of that lip. It's literally is barely noticeable. You can barely even grab it with your nail because it's not really there. It's literally, it is there, but it's so small that it's not really easy to notice. You could get your nail in there and you could miss it all day long. But we could find it, but it was barely findable because it was that well hidden. That told us that the engine hadn't really worked that hard in its life. The pistons have little hairline cracks in it. That's the reason we wanted to rebuild it in the first place. But because of the compression test, it told us it's out of spec. That's not good for the engine. It's not doing it any good. It's literally like, running like this. Instead of just running smooth and centrifugally, it's running off kilter, I guess is the right word. But if you do a compression test on your engine and you know that compressions are alright, that's the first thing you should do. If it's too low, it will struggle to run, you'll be revving its head off, and you'll be pushing it harder. When If you push it hard, the harder you have to push your car, the hotter it's going to get, and the less you have to push it, the better it's going to be because it won't cook as easily. It won't cook. But if you can hear the blow-off valve going on your engine, um, if you don't want to cook your engine, what I've been doing to avoid cooking it is literally avoid having that blow-off valve blowing off at all. Literally get your car into that sweet spot where it feels like it wants to go, but not the manifold pressure is not so high that it blows the blow-off valve. And that's what I normally do to drive mine. Yeah, that's true. Mine's actually been running up the hills 4 psi pressure. That's its sweet spot for mine. It literally does cook, yes, but it doesn't overcook. It doesn't go up to 100 so easily. It literally takes that one hill out Mount going up to Mount Barker to cook my engine. That's like goes from 100 to 110. So yeah, and 10 psi is stock because I have 10 psi on my gauge that I have in my car. That came with the car as well, should I note. So, with the Triton, there's a few factors to look into. Your air-fuel mixture is a very important, crucial part of keeping your engine cool. Your compressions are important to identify if you're too high compression or too low compression and it's not in the sweet spot. Um, I'm a little bit lost to the next one, but for me, the engine's not balanced. It's fighting itself literally to run, and that's one of the reasons why it's cooking as well. So, with all these little tiny problems you have with your engine, it is gonna cook. That's because I have lots of little problems, but they're actually major problems that aren't stopping it from running. It still drives, but it should have died by now if it was really that bad. It's done heaps of kilometers. There's literally, if we're talking about the lip at the top of the cylinders, like I said, mine hasn't got that in it, like barely. But if there's actually a lip in the cylinders, uh, I'll admit there is lips in my cylinders. In some sections, there's literally corrosion in the cylinders from when the engine would have had water in it from sitting in a creek, and it literally sat there, no running of the engine or nothing. They literally just didn't do nothing with it for ages. And what happened is essentially because of it rusted out in certain sections of the engine. Then one day they came along, serviced the engine, and then started up, see if she still runs. She ran and she went good. So they drove her. From what I read, actually, yeah, an intercooler would help because what it would do to keep the engine temperatures down and nice and cool is it's not necessarily the cooling effect inside the cylinders. More or less, it's about transferring the heat away from your valves, and it stops the intake valve from what do you call it? There's a word for it. Terminology slipped through my head, but it literally will help keep the engine cooler by having an intercooler because the cooling effect will cool down the valves, and any air in that section of intake will cool down the engine. But once you hit the combustion, you have the opposite and positive effects because your air density is higher. you have more air to fuel, and then you could run a rich or a lean mixture that it could still get hot or be normal or run colder. It it's really an interesting one. I don't have an intercooler on mine, but from what I read about intercoolers, they would keep your valves from burnout. I believe it's burnout, burning out your valves. It'll prevent them from burning out. But it isn't going to stop carbon deposits from building up on the back of your valves. It's only going to help keep them cooler and make them not burn out so easily. But you still, in some instances, want the heat, but that's only to cook off the carbon deposits. The reason this Tata Telcoline needs a service at this 73,000 kilometers thing is because the history of the vehicle is essentially they would every now and then just start it, drive it out into the road, park it, and then go into the factory, do the work. End of the day, start it up, drive it in, park it. That's it. That's all they would do with it every day of the year, essentially. Then there was the occasion where they'd take it 50 kilometers from 50 kilometers an hour, 60 kilometers an hour. They'd drive it from work to the wheel manufacturer ROH and do their drop-offs, pickups, whatever there, then they'd come back. They also were not running a thermostat, which also contributes to the fact of it needing its service. The reason we need the thermostat in there is to help keep the engine at operating temperatures, make it run effectively and efficiently, and to also make sure there's enough heat inside the head for all the components to get hot enough that the carbon deposits can't stick and build up. Engineering Explained does a very good job of explaining the carbon build up on valves and stuff. They mostly did it for the video about multi-point fuel injection versus injection or something. I can't remember what the video was, but that was a really good video. I even showed my dad's boss, and he understood why it is crucial to drive your cars a little bit harder sometimes. They suggest taking your car on the highway doing 80 to 100 kilometers an hour for 30 minutes once a week at least. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I've got to go because it's 10:40 and I should have been in bed. I have to be in bed by 11 to be certain that I'm going to get up in the morning. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support in setting up the stream. We're going to see how we go in the near future with these videos. Did I literally call this like part 14? I can't remember. I called it part 4. Okay. Well, till tomorrow or another day or something. See you later. Yeah.